I mean, what a stupid weekend we all have planned. I mean, tonight we've got SmackDown, then it's Impact Slammiversary, then it's WWE Money in the Bank, and the thing that is tying, missed it, the thing that is tying all, did it again, the thing that is tying all these things together is that, yes, fans, they are finally coming back. You're like, Simon, this is all you keep talking about. Of course it's all I keep talking about. We had 18 months where there was nothing but silence. It did also mean it was time for Impact Wrestling to send us home moving into that pay-per-view, but now we have to decide, did they do a good job, and do we want to spend our money on this, or do we want to ignore it, which we won't do because you'll secretly just read the results online anyway. Point is, let's up those downs. That patient and long-term storytelling would allow you to buy into an angle more than you ever thought you would do. Because our first match on this week's Impact was Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering taking on Tenille Dashwood and Caleb with a K. And because Jordynne been a little bit crazy recently, I spent the whole time going, well, she could implode, you know. I'd better keep an eye on this. I assume it could have been during this as well, but I was massively wrong, and actually, we got the opposite. Because Grace and Ellering are so much bigger than Caleb with a K and Tenille Dashwood, we're just grabbing them and throwing them around the place. It was a little bit like a massacre. I mean, it got so bad, Tenille and Kay decided, oh man, we're going to get out of here, but they were stopped from doing that. And while they were able to get a few shots in on Rachel Ellering, at one point she just grabbed Caleb with a K's pants and pulled them down. So clearly he was distracted, and I understand that. Nobody wants to be, like, half naked. There were some other teases, including at one point it seeming like both teams were going to get counted out, but thankfully we did not do that. And instead, Ellering and Grace came together to hit this brand new double team move. It was like a double rock bottom, and they got a 1, 2, 3. And now you got to presume they'll go after the tag team titles, but I'm standing by it. I think Jordynne Grace is still eventually going to kick Rachel Ellering's ass. We then started the hype for our main event at Slammiversary because we had a video package that was just focused on Sami Callihan, and this just did the job that it was meant to do, and by the end you were like, oh man, I can't wait to see Sami Callihan versus Kenny Omega, especially because now it's going to be a no DQ. And if that does turn out to be a disappointment, then you can call me Charlie and say I have beautiful long hair, because neither of those two things are true. We then followed this with another video package, this time dedicated to Deonna Purrazzo, letting you know that she has been champion for a long ass time, almost an entire year, and they showed all the people she's beaten along the way. So seriously, these two videos back to back did a tremendous job. I was like, oh man, I'm all excited for the wrestling. So together, I'm giving it up. Deonna is of course taking on a mystery opponent at Slammiversary, so she went to see Scott D'Amore here to sign the contract, and he couldn't have teased this more. I mean, he mentioned Mickie James. I think he threw an Iconic in there. At one point, he even pretended that it could be No Way Jose. It is Impact Wrestling, so you just never know. It does increase the anticipation though, and I think that's awesome. I shouldn't have used the word awesome. Now it sounds like I think it's going to be The Miz. I don't think it's going to be The Miz. Although who doesn't want to see Deonna Purrazzo versus The Miz? Havok then defeated Tasha Steelz in Impact Wrestling's favourite storyline, which is, well, we're going to have a couple of teams go after the Women's Tag Team Championships, and therefore beforehand, every individual within the groups will just have one-on-one matches. This is kind of just repeating what I said last week too, which I know makes me a really boring human being, but I'm just struggling to invest in this feud because it's come from nowhere and it kind of felt like we pushed fast forward. There wasn't any outside nonsense, which I did appreciate, and Havok was able to win after the tombstone, so now you can go, oh my gosh, Havok and Rose, and we have all the momentum, maybe they will become the champions. But if we zoom forward to later on in this Impact Wrestling, it turned out that Rosemary was like, hey Havok, we want you to join Decay properly, we've got James Mitchell, so he's gonna put a curse on you or something. I'm like, man, we should have done that a few weeks ago, and had a couple of weeks and we're like, oh my gosh, we're undead zombies. So like I say, I just feel like we've gone through it too fast. The match was good though, and I'm sure the tag team match on the pay-per-view will be good as well. But yeah, it just needed a little bit more, so down. Another video this time for W. Morrissey to remind you how dominant he has been, and that he's really, really tall. And then we found out that maybe James Mitchell, in his first appearance on the show, had dropped the ball. Because Kimberly was outside a room hoping that Jimbo would turn Suzanne back into Sue Young when Susan was here, and she was just like, nah, bruh, it didn't work. Look at me, I'm still this admin businesswoman. However, this was like a mini tease, because as Kimber was trying to talk some sense into her, Susan, like the Hulk when he turned around and said, my secret is I'm always angry, was all like, my secret is I've always been Sue Young. And she grabbed Kimberly and she dragged her into a room. I quite liked it, especially because I don't know what's going to happen. Are we now going to do Su Yung versus Kimberly, which I was not expecting, or is Kimber about to become like a sister bride of the undead, whatever the hell Su Yung is? But yeah, it really made me start thinking, I don't know where it's going to go, so I'm giving it up. We then had another squash match featuring Steve Macklin. He came to the ring. He was fighting Cal Hero, who, as he said during this, was dressed up like a wrestler from the 80s, and he just absolutely whooped his ass. He finished it off with this massive driver before once again looking to the camera and shouting, "I'm gonna kill everybody." This really is a wait and see project. Like, we've kind of done the same thing over the last few weeks. So either at Slammiversary or coming out the pay-per-view, we need to do something different. As always, I cross my arms and I wait. We then had another video promoting our Ultimate X match that is going to go down at Slammiversary for the X Division title. And then we took all of the dudes that are in that match and some that aren't, and we threw them in a big schmoz. Because it was Josh Alexander, Chris Bay, P.T. Williams and Trey Miguel taking on Rohit Raju, Shearer, Madman Fulton and Ace Austin. And when you have this much talent in one match, well, you're gonna get an up. There's every chance this steals the show on Saturday night too, because again, all these guys can go. And I just want to take this opportunity to call out Josh Alexander, who after the last year or so, I guess the pandemic era, has taken his game and times it by around about 72,000. And not just in Impact Wrestling, in all the promotions he's been working for. We all need to keep an eye on him, and we all need to be shouting about him a bit more. I would shout, but it's annoying, but know that I'm shouting on the inside. Miguel drew the short straw as he was the guy that got beaten up for ages, but of course the narrative here is when it comes to Chris Bay, a la Bobby Heenan, we don't know what side that he's on. And he did accept a hot tag here, and he did run wild, but just you wait until you hear what he did. He was still able to smash everybody down apart from Madman Fulton, because Madman Fulton is a much bigger dude, and that's when the tag team klaxon sounded, and everybody got in the ring, and they just started to hit move after move after move after move. But that's what you want from your X Division, and it got you excited about Saturday, so on and so forth. As it turned out though, Christopher is the smartest one of them all, because he knows it doesn't matter what maneuver you got in back pocket, all you really need is the most devastating move in all the sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up. So he went for this on Shearer. Of course he didn't know what to do, because nobody ever does, and he got the 1, 2, 3. This then naturally led to a big brawl, because everyone was like, wait a minute, I know we have been friends, but now I want to beat you in a couple of days. And that's when Chris Bay was able to get a chair, and he just hit as many people as he could, whether they're a good guy or whether they're a bad guy, because he never cared about any of them, and he just wants to become the champ. This is going to be tremendous though, my only slight concern being the ominous presence of Shearer and Madman Fulton. And let's hope they don't get involved, because I just want to see a match that is go, and fast pace, but I'm sure they will pull it off. I thought we then had some more teasing for who could be at Slammiversary, because we saw Brian Myers talking to Hernandez, and he was all like, hey, Herney, didn't call him that, but I would, and I wouldn't, he punched me in the face. We used to be buddies, why don't you act as my personal security? And Hernandez was like, no, I'm all teamed up with Johnny Swinger now, I don't need it. Myers then, though, turned to a mystery person and said, well, how about you do it? And I guess they were more keen about it, but at the time we didn't know who it was. But as it turned out, Impact was about to pay that off straight away. Because it led to Myers and Sam Bill coming to the ring and telling Jake something to get out there, because of course they've been falling out over the last few weeks, and he did arrive along with Matt Cardona. Now, because Brian Myers is a man of his word, he said, all right, look, I did lose that match. I will obey the stipulation. You are a professional. And then he turned on a dime and said, but you ain't ever going to be a star. So this was the equivalent of when somebody gives an apology but says they're only sorry because everybody else is babies. And Brian Myers had a great line here, because he was like, this isn't fair. I am now in a 2-on-1 situation, even though poor Sam Beal was standing right there. A massive brawl did break out though, with Matt Cardona getting the best of all of this. And just as he was about to finish it off, Tenille Dashwood, of all people, that's right, Tenille Dashwood is out there. She smacked Matt Cardona right in the balls, and then she celebrated with Brian Myers, and I looked into my watch and said, well, I never saw that coming, and then didn't know why I'd looked at my watch. I don't even wear one. This naturally was all done to set up another match for the pay-per-view, where it is going to be Brian Myers and Tenille Dashwood taking on Matt Cardona and a mystery partner. And you'd have to imagine this is going to be Chelsea Green, even though I think she's injured at the moment. Maybe that's a work, it is wrestling, because that's Matt Cardona's partner. She is now free. She popped up in Ring of Honor recently. But then again, Scott D'Amore did tease that when he made this match. So I don't have a clue, and that's why I love it. So all of this is very effective. Look at me guessing like an absolute nerd. But that's the way I want to live my life. It then turned out that Hernandez's new gig alongside Johnny Swinger is not going very well, because they came to the ring, it was Herney taking on Moose, and Moose absolutely wrecked him. I mean, honestly, this was an annihilation. I think it probably went about 1 minute or just over. Moose hit the spear, he pinned him, and then he was so pissed off he goes, oh, you know what? I'm gonna break your leg. This, of course, was done so that Chris Sabin could run down and fight off Moose and get the better of him, so you could go, oh, maybe he is gonna beat him at Slammiversary, but there is no way that's gonna happen. To the point, if Moose does lose, that's right, I will shave my head. That's the second board joke for the video. That's too many. But this was a nice and simple angle. It did its job. Up. Take all the praise I mentioned for the videos earlier too, because we then had another one featuring on Kenny Omega and Don Callis, and they were just like, Sam McCallahan, he's a crazy person, he's a vagabond, we don't appreciate him, therefore at Slammiversary, we'll beat him once and for all. All of these did their job very well. There is plenty more going down at Slammiversary too, including everything with the tag team titles. Because we are going to have Willie Mack and Rich Swann taking on the Good Brothers, taking on TJP and Fala Blah, taking on Violent by Design. So much as we did last week, we took all the other guys that hadn't had a singles match and we allowed them to have a singles match, or at least a fatal four-way. Now, it did achieve what it set out to achieve in the sense it's told you, oh my gosh, at the weekend you're going to see a crazy match, and I'm sure we will. But as for this one, well, it didn't really click like intended. Down. The idea was that we were waiting for Luke Gallows and Joe Doring to clash, because of course there's the monsters of the group. But before then, I don't know, it was just a little bit all over the place. And maybe that was the intention. They were like, let's just go out there and perform carnage. It was a kind of figure that it was going to be Bar taking the pin, given who else was in this. And also, I just can't see him and TJP winning the tag team titles on Saturday night. And I was correct. Joe Doring whacked him with a lariat and he pinned him for the 1-2-3, which is good for Violent by Design because they are the champions and they coming across like damn dominators. There was then this massive brawl afterwards, because of course there was. What else were you going to do? As Luke Gallows and Joe Doring once again stared each other down. And I do think this will be a really good tag team title match. And I think the whole Slammiversary cards look absolutely brilliant. But in terms of being the last thing we saw at Impact before that, well, it was mostly fine. And I suppose fine is fine, but maybe I wanted more than fine. I don't know. Which brought us to the end of yet another episode of Impact Wrestling, and I'm just gonna keep this one nice and simple. Up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of Impact. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Head on over to WhatCulture.com so you can keep up to date with everything Slammiversary. Make sure you come say hello on social media, and yes, of course, watch on the video, including on Sunday when we up those downs for Slammiversary. Aside from WhatCulture, thank you for watching as always, and I really do think that Impact is going to have a great pay-per-view this weekend. And if I'm wrong, well, I don't care, because I'm excited now. I'll see you then.